Selfish people want you to be selfless, and selfless people want you to be selfish. And I want you to think very carefully on that, because it's always the people who want to take away from you, who want to steal all of the life force that you possess, that always put expectations of you, that always tell you, oh yeah, this is the right thing to do, right? And this is one of the major reasons as to why we are dealing with a mental health crisis in which young men are quite literally unaliving themselves left and right. Because truth to be told, there isn't much to look forward to for the majority of people, right? What is the script for the majority of people? Do something that you despise for 40 years so that you can contribute to society. Eat a bunch of trash that's gonna make you unhealthy, that's gonna land you into the hospital, have no bodily autonomy whatsoever, have no drive, have no higher purpose. There's no sense of community, everybody's isolated. Modern living has completely destroyed the essence of what it is like to be a human being. The entire thing has been designed so that we can take as much energy, as much time, as much life force out of you as humanly possible in order to further other people's dreams, other people's goals, right? And what do we give you in return? Just a bunch of slop, just a bunch of instant gratification, just like the dopamine treadmill, to stimulate you, to numb your mind enough so that you can keep taking it from the back, so that you can keep suffering for your overlords, right? And if it gets too bad, if the voices in your head are literally screaming at you that something needs to change, right? Which, by the way, when you're depressed, you got these voices in your head that are begging you to change, that are begging you to step into your actual power and let go of the traditional path, and let go of the expectations of society, and let go of all the programs that have been implanted in your head and in your parents' heads and in everybody's heads it is that you know. There is that voice inside you that is screaming and that is making you miserable on purpose, so that you awaken to the fact that there is more to this life, that there is something that your inner child has yearned for ever since you were little. But you haven't gone on that adventure. You haven't. You decided to take the safe path. You decided to satisfy the expectations of everybody around you. You decided to be a good little boy. And where did that get you? Does the validation of people around you make up for the fact that you're living a fake lie? That you can't really be yourself, that you can't say what you want to say, that you can't be who you want to be, who it is that you truly are? The root of depression and the root of unalivement is nothing more than a lack of identity. It's the fact that you're pulled in so many different directions and you have to live a lie and you cannot be who you truly are because you've accepted that you can't be. You've accepted that it's not the responsible thing to do. But it is the only thing to do. You are gonna pay with suffering and anguish and mental torture if you don't live authentically, if you don't do what it is that you've known deep down for years upon years upon years that you should be doing, right? That you're not meant to be slaving away at that place, to be surrounded by all these idiots who don't get it the way that you do, right? But all of it is being suppressed, and as you spend more and more time in slavery, in garbage relationships, trying to please people who don't give two shits about you, they only care about what they can get out of you. But as soon as you try to live authentically, you try to write your own story, they're gonna call you selfish. They're gonna call you selfish. They're gonna call you selfish. But guess what? There's nothing more selfish and disgusting than calling another person selfish because they're not serving you, because they're not dedicating their life pursuit in seeking your approval and living the way that you want them to live. That is pathetic, right? I preach being selfish, but I preach it for everyone. Everyone should be on their authentic path, getting what it is that they want out of life, right? And this can mean so many different things for all of us. We are all aspects of God materialized in different likenesses that are meant to experience different facets of existence, right? But that higher purpose exists in all of us. But ultimately, it is the strongest will that wins, right? If you're weak-willed and you let other people dictate your life and you let other people's limiting beliefs affect you, oh no, you're not meant for this. Oh no, you've just never been good at that thing. You don't deserve the highest quality relationships. You don't deserve love. All of these are programs that you've accepted as being true, right? But there are people in worse circumstances than you who believe the opposite, right? At the end of the day, everything is a belief. All the stories that you tell yourself that have been reinforced by experiences which you did not choose growing up, they're nothing more than beliefs. They're nothing more than illusions. They are falsehoods that you've been meant to accept, and most people never awaken to that realization. They repeat the same patterns over and over and over. And you know, like Carl Jung says, if you don't make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it faith. But that process is painful, that process takes a lot of effort, that process requires a great load of incentive as well, because it's comfortable to remain the same, it's comfortable to accept your miserable position as part of this empire of cockroaches that modern society has become, right? People call it the rat race, no, I call it the cockroach race. Rats are much more dignified than what we have become nowadays. And don't get me started on health and how people are being deliberately poisoned and destroyed from the inside. But yeah, there's a conglomerate of brainwashing. So the sick people are debating people like me. The sick people are disagreeing with what true natural health looks like, right? You've got fat people with hypertension and all sorts of diseases and medications and pills telling me that my diet is wrong, telling me that my approach is wrong, that I'm gonna die of heart disease and whatever else, right? It's absolutely ludicrous how deep the brainwashing goes. People will defend the thing that is leading them to the fucking slaughterhouse. And if you're anything like me, you know how frustrating it is to try to convince the people in your life, whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, acquaintances, even sometimes romantic relationships you get with someone who doesn't really get it. And no matter how much you try to save them, no matter how much you try to tell them that, hey, your health issues is because of this, your health issues is because of that, and this is why you're miserable, let's work on it. But they are too attached to the trauma, they are too attached to the comforting misery that they have grown up in. Trying to save those people is one of the most painful experiences on earth, and the more you try it, the more you grow apart from that person. But truth to be told, guys, there is nothing somebody can give you that will make up for the fact that you cannot give it to yourself. For example, somebody can love you all it is that you want, but if you're not able to give yourself that experience, if you're not able to actually accept that and feel deserving of it, it is worthless. It is nothing. Getting the girl isn't gonna change your life. Even if she's perfect, even if she's amazing, you're gonna fuck it up. Why? Because your internal state is incongruent with being accepting of that loving situation, because you are an abused dog deep down. Because you haven't done the fucking work, you haven't unlearned all these different programs. And I know what I'm talking about because I've blown multiple relationships due to subconscious pattern that I was not aware of, right? It goes far deeper than, oh yeah, you're good looking and a person is always going to be with you because you look good. No, because the only thing that matters is the emotional experience that you provide the other person, right? And no matter how good looking you are, which is nothing more than a gateway for the person to have an emotional experience, you know, they're proud to be with you, they like your physical appearance, they're attracted to you, right? But ultimately, if the relationship itself is shit, if your behavior isn't congruent with that higher version of yourself that person is seeking from you, and you know, they are also not acting in line with the higher version of them that you're seeking, that you can both grow towards, well, guess what? It's gonna implode. No matter how good looking either people are, right? Even Hollywood actors who are 10 times more attractive than me, they still get divorced by their wives. And we're talking about people with all of the other stats maxed out. Money, status, etc. Right? Every single stat maxed out. And they're also very charismatic individuals, which you have to be in order to succeed in acting. Well, guess what? These people still have crappy relationships that end in disasters. Why? Because it's about the emotional experience. And the emotional experience doesn't work if you're not working together towards the same goal, and if you don't have a degree of compatibility, right? A lot of people have tried to simplify relationships too much to be like, oh yeah, if I have XYZ stats, if I'm tall, if I'm jacked, if I'm handsome, if I'm this, if I'm that, then the girl is gonna be obsessed with me and I don't have to do anything, and we'll live happily ever after. That is like the autistic view based on Tinder studies. Oh yeah, as if Tinder studies can quantify the complexities of human interaction. Absolutely ludicrous. Anybody who believes that stuff and who doesn't understand the emotional aspect and how ultimately it's all about how you feel and how you make the other person feel. If somebody doesn't understand that, then they've just never left the basement. It is what it is. But to circle back to the idea that you need to give it to yourself before it is given to you, you do need to awaken to the realization that nobody is coming to save you. I know you probably heard this a lot of times and whatever, but ultimately it is down to you to impose your will into this reality. Life is a single player game, guys. Life is truly a single player game because it is your consciousness, it is what you interact, it is how you interact with the outside world, it is what you perceive of the outside world that ends up reflecting back at you. So life is 100% a single player game, and you have way more agency in it than you would like to believe. But the entire constructs of reality that have been fed into your head have led you to believe that you don't have any power, right? You're kind of just at the mercy of whatever happens to you, and you should fall in line because that's what makes you a good boy, that's what makes you, a valuable member of society. What society? There is no society. There is no common goal that we are working towards to better the lives of everybody. But ultimately, you need to go on the adventure. You need to say fuck off to the validation, because the validation is never going to do anything for you, right? Because they don't pay you in money. You have to understand that, because money is time, money is freedom. The only currency that money can turn into, which is valuable, is the ability to do the things that you want to do and to not have to worry about shit, right? That is the whole point, is freedom. It's to free yourself. But if for the money you have to waste the entirety of your youth and vitality and strength, and you can't actually materialize what it is that you want to express into this world because you're too busy chasing money, you didn't make money because it didn't translate into freedom, right? So the only thing you get by following the path that everybody wants to follow is validation. But that validation is never enough. That love isn't even real because it's conditional upon you living a lie to satisfy the egos, the hubrises of other people, so they can box you in, so you can be useful to them the way they want you to be. I'm telling you, no, fuck that shit. Be selfish. Do whatever the fuck it is that you want. Leave it all behind and go travel alone in some random ass fucking place. Start the thing that you've been putting off forever because of that negative voice that has been reinforced by all these programs that are trying to suppress you, that are trying to suppress your authentic self. Because when you're on that deathbed, you're not gonna wish that you did more spreadsheets. You're not gonna wish that you got an extra promotion. No. You're not gonna wish that you had less experiences, that you had less fun, that you did less with the abundance of vitality and energy that you have in your youth, which, by the way, you can supercharge the hell out of that if you learn how to think properly, if you learn how to feel properly, if you learn how to nourish yourself properly. How the fuck can you expect to be healthy and have energy and stay away from the hospital when you're consuming the foods that they engineered for you to be sick, to be sluggish, to be filled with brain fog, so you become an easily controllable automaton that can be constantly exploited due to poor health, right? Another thing that brings men to the verge of unalivement is, of course, the cessation of romantic relationships, right? That is when you are at the most vulnerable. That is when your entire world gets destroyed, especially the more you invested into the idea of that person. But I want you to understand that the reason why you are so upset is because you had this fantasy of that person. You had this fantasy, you had this story inside of your head of how things were supposed to be between you, right? You were projecting a lot of different ideals onto that person. It's not the person that you really want. You wanted a version of them. You wanted them to fit a specific archetype, and that specific archetype you are seeking in every single person that you meet, romantically speaking. And it's really difficult because the longer the relationship lasted and the more of a universe you co-created, right? All the inside jokes you did together, all these shared experiences that you're never gonna be able to get back, it is very difficult. And a huge part of your identity of who it is that you are was built alongside that person. A lot of the things you say, a lot of things you believe, a lot of your material conditions of reality, a lot of it was co-created with that person. So it is quite literally like grieving the death of somebody, because you are grieving the death of that entity that you were working towards. You are grieving the death of that shared dream that you had together, right? But ultimately, you'll always be okay. Ultimately, you're always going to bounce back. And I know it's difficult if you're in one of those situations going through heartbreak. It's the hardest thing in the world, dude. But ultimately, you can't be with somebody who doesn't want to be with you, because you have to value yourself. You have to understand that you are the center of your universe, and you need to love yourself, and you need to treat yourself as if you are your own child, in a sense, right? Because you are the observer of you while being you at the same time. You are the character while also being the player, and you need to treat yourself as if you would treat your son, as if you would treat your daughter, as if you would treat like a really good friend that you deeply care about. And you don't want that person, you don't want that physical aspect of you to constantly keep banging his head against the wall, trying to get with a person who doesn't want to be with them, right? If somebody doesn't want to be with you, if you tried everything to be back with them, that's normal, it's understandable. But like, if you really tried everything, dude, and it still doesn't work, and that person is still treating you like a stranger and being completely dismissive, and there is just none of that spark, none of what you used to be before, you have to accept it and you have to move on. Don't be sad that it's over. Be glad that it happened, right? Because ultimately everything is temporary. Your existence on this planet is temporary. Your parents are gonna die eventually, you know? You're gonna have many phases of life, many different identities that you're gonna step into, which are gonna have a beginning time and an end time, right? So if life in general is ephemeral and you've got limited time on Earth, then you should take things as they are. Enjoy the experiences, enjoy the lessons that you learned from it, but don't destroy yourself in the process of trying to revive something that has ran its course, okay? Because ultimately, when it comes to girls, when it comes to relationships in general, no matter what your gender is, if somebody wants to be with you, they'll be with you. If somebody truly loves you, they'll find a way. They'll push through all of the hardship. And here's the thing, the hardest form of heartbreak is when you know that you fucked up. You know that you created that version of her that now despises you or doesn't like you whatsoever, doesn't want to be with you. You took part in creating that because of your lack of understanding, because of your lack of wisdom, because you didn't control yourself when you should have controlled yourself, because you were too reckless. And that's why you want to make it up. That's why you want to get back to how things were and everything, because you want to make up for it. You want to show that person that, you know, you've changed and everything will be amazing and whatever. And now you understand, right? Now that you've received the lesson, you're like, oh my God, if I knew this before, then everything would have been perfect. But sometimes it's too late. Sometimes you have to take the lesson. You have to realize that, hey, now that you're that version of you who understands those things, then you can step into a relationship with somebody who is even better than them. Because they ain't all that. At the end of the day, now you are free to pursue something that is even greater than what was, because you are a better version of you. And if that lesser version of you, if that former version of you was able to get that partner, then I guarantee you that you now, with the knowledge that you do possess and with the development that you have done, can find somebody much better, right? So yeah, don't do stupid shit while you're going through heartbreak, alright? Like, trust me, we've all had these thoughts, I understand. But things will be okay. And if there's one last thing that I can tell you, is to stop taking life so seriously. This is literally a video game, right? You can experience whatever you want with this level of detachment where it doesn't really matter, you know? All of these things are experiences. All you're doing is a bunch of different experiments to see what happens. If you approach life as if it's some kind of MMO, where like you don't have to be afraid of anything, there is nothing to fear but fear itself, and you walk through the world with this level of detachment, with this level of childlike curiosity, you will be infinitely happier and things will improve tenfold, and you're actually going to be able to step into your authentic self and live the purposeful life that you are always meant to be. So take the risk, throw yourself into the deep end, and dare to live life by design instead of by default. Keep ascending.